the first college football playoff quarterfinal at the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic, 7:30 Eastern, New Year's Eve on ESPN between Miami and Ohio State. Some of you might be old enough to remember the classic national title between these two storied programs. As of right now, Ohio State's a 9.5 point favorite. Total is sitting at 42 and a half. This game will be played at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Finally, we don't have to talk about opt-outs and coaching changes, although Ryan Day is reportedly more involved in the offense per
Ooh,
reports. Colin, I know. So I revised my numbers. We talked about this on last podcast. I'm around 9. So
okay.
for this game, I mean, with this total, and here's the thing. There's a big misconception out there, by the way, that Ohio State last year went really, really slow, load management, and then in the college football playoff, I see people say this all the time. They went like really fast. They didn't. They went really slow again in the college football playoff. They were just dominant throughout that run. This should be a lower scoring game, but it's indoors, a lot of athletes. This is a low total. Colin, I'm going to let you make your case for Miami and make all the Ohio State fans mad once again.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, I wrote this up for action, so I'll save a big bunch of beef of that for everybody to read once we get closer to the game. But I will point out what I think the biggest discrepancy is and the reason why Miami is going to cover this number. By the way, as you didn't hear in the last podcast, I make this game 5. I thought this number opening up around 11 was a joke. I had no problem taking 10 and a half. I'd have no problem taking 9. I'd take it at 7. And if it's a low scoring game, which it's indicating that it is, those points are worth even more. Let me just point out the biggest reason why I think you should back Miami here at any number above 7. This pass rush is going to absolutely dominate Ohio State's offensive line.
Yeah,
This
I'm
is
really
the
worried about the Ohio State right side of the offensive line in particular.
Yes, exactly. So the best pass rush in the nation belongs to Miami. And Ohio State is 31st in pass blocking. Well, let's put that into real life terms. Ohio State just took on Indiana, and Julian Sayin was pressured 12 times. 5 of those ended up as sacks. That's a 41% pressure to sack ratio. That is extremely high. You should not have a pressure to sack ratio over 20%. Julian Sayin's never seen anything like that before from what Indiana did to that Ohio State offensive line. By the way, Indiana, they're only 12th in pass rush. Miami's number 1. And it's not even Ruben Bain that's going to be the issue because Ruben Bain's going to go up against left tackle Austin Severfeld, and he ranks top 20 of all individual pass blockers, right? Of all PFF tackles out there, Ohio State's left tackle is top 20. Go to the other side, Philip Daniels, he's outside the top 100 in pass blocking. That ain't good because you're getting Akeem Mesidor, and that's the assignments you're going to get. And Julian Saint is going to be harassed the entire time. And if you think 12 pressures, and 5 sacks from Indiana was a problem, wait till Miami starts coming down the pipe. It's going to be worse for Julian Saint. This number shouldn't be above 7. I make it 5. Not saying the Miami pulls off the upset because the offense is atrocious. That's in my write-up. Miami can't explode. I think Fletcher's the key, running the ball on the ground. If there is an upset, it's because Miami kept this really low scoring, similar to Texas A&M game. But I'm telling you, right tackle is a huge issue for Ohio State in this game.
Yeah, their right side of the offensive line worries me. Uh, Also maybe their special teams. I but the other thing is, so Ohio State has extra time to prepare here, right? Miami had to go to Texas A&M. When I look at this, I mean, Ohio State defense we know is elite, the best in the country. Carson Beck, I mean, what can you do? I mean, Ohio State basically has a weeks to just say, let's cover Malachi Tony. And Miami basically was showing all the different ways they want to get him the ball last week. I'm sure they're going to try to get on the ball a ton this week as well. But can anyone else step up for Miami? Now, maybe it's a big Fletcher game again on the ground, but they haven't been a great rushing team all year. I do have the same concerns for the Ohio State offensive line. I think that I'm going to look and we'll have a same game parlay for this game coming up, sponsored by Sling TV. We'll close out with our DK favorite parlay from all of the games that we covered today. I will have a version of Claire in there. I'm going to look at some Max Claire props because what I think is Miami, they're going to get pressure. I don't think Ohio State's going to have a ton of success on the ground. Miami's going to play a ton of too high, trying to prevent explosive plays against the best receiver tandem in college football. And I think that's going to open up some things for Claire underneath. So I think that he could get uh, just a high target or a higher target share than the market might assume here. So I'm going to look there. I'm kind of close to on market. I don't blame you for taking the points with Miami, especially you're sticking with your conviction on what you make it. Uh, Calabrese, even though we're indoors here, explosive athletes, you think the defenses will win out and you like the under here?
Yeah, my projection is actually at 39 for this game. So 42 and a half, I'm going to go under. Obviously, I love both of these defenses. We also get a big bump from the pace. Ohio State dead last, even slower than Army. But Miami isn't much faster. 29.8 seconds between plays. That's 129th in the country. And when you look at the Canes, the defense just got stronger as the season went on. They haven't allowed 20 points or more in regulation in 7 straight games. Ohio State's defense is probably the best in the entire country. You can't create explosives. They tackle at an elite level. They disguise at an elite level. You're going to see them in their bag in a very similar way to the season opener against Arch, where there's so many sim pressures. They were rotating. They had hybrid coverage where, one side of the field's man, the other side zone. It's going to be very difficult for Carson Beck to figure out exactly what's going on a drive by drive basis. And when you look at it, if Miami drives the ball downfield, good luck scoring in the red zone. Ohio State defensively has one of the lowest red zone efficiency allowed rates in really the last 5 years in the entire country. And then in terms of scoring touchdowns there, 33% of opponent red zone trips have ended in the paint. So Ohio State just bows their neck when they get down there. And Underporn is built on this. It's all built on 27-yard field goal attempts. And by the way, Miami's kicker is absolutely struggling. Between the ears, he's really in a bad place, going 1 for 4 on field goals in College Station. That almost cost them a trip to the quarterfinals here. So I like under on the full game. I also like under in the first quarter, which is sitting at 9.5. It's actually just about even money out there in the market. Ohio State's defense in the first quarter, first in the entire country, just gave up 1.3 points per 15 minutes of a game. Miami's defense, six nationally, 2.5 points per game. And offensively, both of these teams generally started slow. Ohio State, for being the number one team in the country, basically the whole way, 57th in first quarter scoring, less than 6 points per game. Miami, 76th, even worse, 5.2. So the fact that this is 9.5, I think this is probably the best bet on the board. Go under in the first quarter.
Ryan Day and Mario battling to see who can mess this up late. Duck, well, Colin, I know that you mentioned this before. Miami's first half defense this year
Yeah.
has been incredible. What are they allowing? How many points?
4.8 points in the first half. And I think to tag on, I also got this in the article, like Ryan Day taking over play calling from Heartline. I think the big issue was the fact that Ohio State was 31.8 seconds per play. They don't I think Day feels like he can flip a switch and go back to Chip Kelly's whatever this passing up tempo offense was that showed up in the Rose Bowl last year. So I'm not sure that's going to work, but I think the attempt is to get as far away from this Brian Hartline slug as possible.
And Duck, along those lines, you are looking at the first half under.
Well, I am. Yeah, let's look at it. It seems like we saw the script for Miami being able to hang in there and keep the game close against A&M while leaning on their talented front seven to clean up the mess. And I do think that that front seven is going to get home against Julian Sand. Again, we talked about it before the A&M Miami game about how Miami's first half defense showed up, the low point total. Well, look at Ohio State. 47 total points allowed in the first half of their games this season. We've got strength on strength here. Defenses are going to be the difference in the first half. And you look at the pace of play, Miami 129th and Ohio State dead last 136th in offensive operating tempo. How many total possessions are we going to see from each here? Three? I wonder. So you look at the Buckeyes, they've struggled on occasion with generating explosive plays, but we've seen those explosive plays come from Ohio State in the second halves of games after leaning on their opponents, wearing their opponents down in the first half with the run. I'm going to call for that trend to continue. I'm going to fully expect this one to be a slow burning grinder in the first half, a game where we really see the war in the trenches be the primary driver of success from each of these offenses here. Last thing I'll say, we have two elite Power Four red zone defenses. Nothing easy inside the 20-yard line. Could be 14-7 at half, which still gets us to the window. Could be 9-3. Could be a field goal fest. These red zone defenses are elite, and it's going to be really, really tough to operate inside the 20. It could be 6-3 or 9-3. We've seen Ohio State on the fast track against Indiana really struggle. I think Ohio State will benefit from having gone through that Indiana nonsense that they went through. They didn't have to squeeze the ball hard in the fourth quarter at all this season. And going through that against Indiana, they didn't know what to do on third and short. They didn't know how to call the game with pressure situations right in their face in the fourth quarter. I think that could help Ohio State in the later stages here, but I want first half under. Absolutely. 21.5 at current. It's a play.
Yeah, I mean, I said that before. I said Ryan Day going into that Indiana game probably really wants that to be super close just for his team who hadn't had any of those experiences all year with a freshman quarterback. So I think that that will benefit them as well.
The 22-yard field goal in the fourth quarter to tie the game, and the kicker, it was such a pressure kick, but an easy kick, and they just hadn't gone through that, hadn't been working the muscle memory late in the game, so that could help them late here.
Anyone want to call for the outright upset? Colin.
I can't take Mario on an outright upside, but I mean, I think they have a shot.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think they have a shot too. But I'll say 24-17 Ohio State.
That front seven is so nasty. They can get you out of rhythm and get you behind the chains and create that just like Indiana did with Ohio State. Give Sayin a little pressure, get him off his mark.
I
Ooh,
think the
it could
one
be
thing that bugs
trouble.
me, Duck, I think the one thing that is like sticking in my head is that since Colin Klein's name got dropped for the Kansas State job, the Texas A&M offense wasn't the same, and they became predictable. And Miami legit was a great defense in that game, but Texas A&M wasn't very creative and they didn't change on the fly. So we'll see if Ryan Day can change that. But I think Miami's got it. Definitely has a shot. Better than some of these other teams that we'll talk about in the next podcast in the playoff.
Yeah, my biggest concern for Miami is actually uh, Carson Beck against this defense.
Yeah,
And is he going to make too many mistakes? Because he definitely was not good enough against A&M to beat Ohio State.
agree.
And the Ohio State defense is much better than A&M's defense. And you're not saying is not going to be spraying the ball all over like Marcel Reed. But Miami's defense definitely gives them a chance. Heatherman has done a tremendous job. And by the way, we didn't mention like getting Blay back. Keontae Scott was massive. Then you even had the freshman stepping up, but getting Scott back is so big for them. That guy just makes plays. So
And by the way, in case you haven't already, since we've said it on two other podcasts, neither of these teams are beating Georgia. You need a Georgia national title future in your portfolio at 6-1.